My name is Tom Brown. Recently, my life has been shining like a light. My life has been enriched for a year and a half now, thanks to my girlfriend Liz. Liz is kind and gentle, always smiling at me with warmth. Being with someone you truly love makes you feel happy no matter what you do, and I've come to realize this since meeting her. I want to continue walking through life with Liz by my side. I have prepared for making that declaration. Though it may be cliche, after a slightly upscale dinner, I showed her the engagement ring I had secretly bought on a hill, overlooking the city lights. And then boldly, I got down on one knee in a cheesy manner and proposed to Liz, saying, "Will you marry me?" Liz was surprised and her eyes widened slightly. She will surely be happy and shed tears of joy. I had been picturing Liz in that way. However, the words that came out of Liz's mouth were far beyond my expectations. "I'm sorry. I'm not ready." "Yeah, that's right. Right now, huh?" I thought I might have misheard. However, looking at Liz's face, I quickly realized it wasn't a mistake. The breeze on the hill, which had been pleasant until now, was suddenly replaced by a cold gust that pierced through my entire body. I realized that no matter how much happiness you accumulate, it can disappear in an instant. In the end, after being rejected following my proposal, I didn't know how to reach out to her, and as a result, we ended up in an awkward situation, effectively parting ways. Oh, it's over. My life is over. I rushed to my friend Bob's house and spent the night drinking to the point of vomiting in the bathroom. Cheer up, man. Actually, next time, don't bring alcohol to my place anymore. Bob seemed irritated. That's true. This guy is handling all the cleanup of what I vomited. While I felt extremely sorry, I was also in such shock and despair from Liz rejecting my proposal that I couldn't even think about being considerate towards Bob. What should I do from now on? Without Liz, I can't go on living. I've liked people multiple times in the past, only to end up in defeat. She was the only one who said she still loved me, and I truly loved her, so the backlash from being rejected was too intense for me. This is quite a struggle, all right. Then, Bob seemed to come up with an idea and clapped his hands together. And then he said this to me. "That's it. Let's go to Miami." He made such a nonsensical suggestion, along with a catchphrase that I had heard somewhere before. "Miami? Why do I have to go to a place like that with you?" Why not? I used to go there often during our college days. Sometimes, just splashing into the sea, having some Miami seafood or Cuban cuisine can be a good change of mood. But seriously, out of all places Miami, I wasn't enthusiastic about it. In Miami, there was a familiar bed and breakfast that we used to visit with Bob. The plan was to go there again this time. I hesitated at first, but it was clear that just sitting at home like this would only make things more difficult. So in the end, I decided to go along with Bob's proposal. After that, the next day off. Fortunately, with favorable weather, we boarded the bus bound for Miami. Oh, it's been such a long time, hasn't it? Hey, what do you want to eat? Maybe paella? In contrast to Bob, who was all excited, I was feeling gloomy. Wow, the weather is so nice. Why do you such a sour expression? Bob sighed and said, "I'm worried about what's to come." I continued to sulk selfishly, forgetting the kindness of the friend who had accompanied me on the trip. However, upon arriving in Miami, the sight of the tourist spots I hadn't seen in a while made my darkened heart feel a bit brighter. In this place, with its old-fashioned buildings and proximity to nature, it helps you forget the hustle and bustle of the city center. The food is delicious as well. While eating and drinking as we stroll little by little, I was able to share laughter with Bob. And when night falls, we stay at an inn. This place feels nostalgic, Bob mumbled while reclining on the sofa in the assigned room. This place is affordable enough for students to visit with their part-time job earnings. It has a bit of an old feeling, but it was a favored place, including its charming atmosphere. What else to going to do next? Are we going to sleep already? After taking a bath, we thought about our future schedule. By the way, this time it's a 2-night, 3-day trip. Bob yawned a bit. He might have been thinking of taking it easy on the first day. I'm gonna get some fresh air outside for a bit. You can go ahead and sleep first. When I said that, Bob replied with, "Sure," and promptly got into bed. I woke alone along Ocean Drive in Miami, reminiscing about what happened 2 years ago, that night as well. Bob had gone to bed earlier and I was walking alone to sober up from the alcohol. Back then, both Bob and I didn't have girlfriends, so we were drinking recklessly, cursing the unfairness of not having a partner. It's nostalgic now. Well, now that I don't have a girlfriend, I guess you could say it's a feeling I haven't had in a while. Nevertheless, thinking back to that time, it was truly miraculous. I never expected that I could find a girlfriend here in Miami. Yes, actually, I first met Liz here in Miami. 2 years ago, it all started when I approached her, while she was wandering the streets at night by chance. At first, mustering the courage to approach her was a daunting task, so I hesitated quite a bit. Liz was way out of my league. She was so beautiful that under normal circumstances, I would never have been able to approach her. However, she appeared to be somewhat lost on the road, and a charitable heart told me it would be better to help her. Plus, there was a slight desire to get to know her better, and above all, the power of alcohol pushed me to approach Liz and say, good evening. Upon which, Liz seemed flustered and said, I'm a bit lost. I asked her about the location of the inn where she and her friends were staying, and by sheer coincidence, it turned out to be right next to the place we were staying. Well then, I can guide you there? When I said that, Liz nodded apologetically. At first, we were both nervous, but as we started talking, we discovered that we had various common interests, and surprisingly, the conversation flowed smoothly. As we approached the destination, I gradually realized that my steps were getting shorter. I didn't want to part ways with her like this. With the courage fueled by alcohol, I said, if you'd like, would you join me for a drink? Liz seemed a bit surprised at first, but eventually, she agreed. During that brief period of less than an hour, we had a very enjoyable time. I exchanged contact information with her there. Afterward, we lived in different states, but I passionately pursued her, visiting her hometown every 2 weeks, and that's how we nurtured our love. But she didn't say yes to my proposal. I spontaneously went to the place where I had met Liz. Come to think of it, I approached her around here when she seemed lost. While thinking that, I scanned the surroundings, and at that moment, my heart felt like it was about to stop. To my surprise, Liz was standing just beyond the shadow of a building. Moreover, she was wearing the same clothes as she had at that time. It felt as if they were recreating the events from 2 years ago. However, just like when they first met, I couldn't bring myself to talk to her. That's because there was a tall man standing next to her. Who is he? Could it be her new boyfriend? I couldn't believe it, but then I realized it. Liz must have been two-timing with that handsome guy, I suppose. That's why she turned down my proposal. I felt like everything in front of me went pitch black, and I almost collapsed, but I managed to hold myself back at the last moment and started running away from the scene. I gasped for breath, and in my mind, I kept repeating that I should have never come to Miami in the first place. Being here brought back memories of the good times with Liz, and my heart felt like it was about to burst. The next morning, as I had breakfast, I recounted the nightmarish scene from yesterday to Bob. Bob looked at me with a sympathetic expression and said, seriously, what should I do? I feel like diving into the sea off the cliff. Hey, calm down. And get out, Liz. She's just a girl who cheats anyway. Right, come on. Let's have some Miami cuisine and drinks today. Bob said that and cheered me up. Indeed, if she's the type to cheat, breaking up before marriage might have been the right choice in a way. But of all people, Liz cheating. It's hard to believe. I couldn't believe just that. Thinking that all the smiles she had shown me until now were fake, I no longer knew what to believe. With even heavier feelings than yesterday, I was walking through the streets of Miami with Bob. And from a distant place, there was a man waving his hand and coming towards us. Who was that guy? Bob, who had poor eyesight, said so and squinted his eyes. I frowned as well, but in the next moment, my eyes widened. To my surprise, it was the same man who had walked next to Liz yesterday. What is he doing? Did he come to greet me as a taunt? I'd be feeling like I was being challenged to a fight. I gave that handsome guy a fierce glare. But in the next moment, Bob exclaimed, "Hey, Max." I was surprised when Bob exclaimed like that. When I asked if they knew each other, it seemed they were colleagues from work. Max stood in front of us and with an innocent smile, he said, "It's really Bob." From what I heard, it seemed that Bob was particularly fond of Max, and the two of them seemed to have a good relationship. However, as for me, I was far from feeling calm inside towards the man who might be Liz's boyfriend. Perhaps my ill thoughts were evident, as Bob asked, "What's wrong?" When I told Bob that the handsome guy standing, there was the one who had walked with Liz yesterday, Bob looked alarmed and asked, "Did you date Liz?" Then Max looked at me with surprise and asked, "Could it be? Are you Tom?" After that, Max informed me about the true relationship between him and Liz. Surprisingly, he said he was Liz's cousin, and they had been visiting Miami together as cousins since yesterday. So Liz wasn't cheating, it seems. Even though I had already been dumped, I couldn't help but feel a little relieved. Liz is a very loyal person, to the point where all of us cousins are worried about her. After saying that, Max chuckled and then looked at me with a straight face, saying, "So you're Tom?" I actually thought it wouldn't be right to do this without the person's permission, but meeting here like this must be some kind of fate. Would you mind talking for a bit? Want to talk to me? Max began speaking to my puzzled self about Liz's past. Surprisingly, and this was news to me, Liz had been previously married. We had been together for a year and a half, but I had never sensed any indication of this from Liz, so her unexpected past surprised me greatly. Why didn't she tell me? That question gradually became clear as I listened to Max's story. It seemed that Liz had been married to a man who was 5 years older than her. He was commonly referred to as an elite, and he had grown up in a family of elites, just like his father and siblings. However, at first, they were happy, but gradually, cracks started to appear in their relationship. Perhaps due to their unnecessary privilege, Max's family looked down on Liz, who had grown up in a modest household. Especially her mother-in-law, who would continuously say hurtful things to Liz like, "You're worthless and you're dull every day." Moreover, her husband would frequently cheat on her with different women. To make matters worse, her parents-in-law would laugh and tell her, "It's your fault for being unattractive," which had a profound impact on Liz. And eventually, they got divorced. This happened approximately 3 years ago from now. "I see. Liz should have talked to me about it too," I muttered. Bex asserted, "No, Liz did try to talk about it. At least that's what she told me." Brain, according to Max, after I proposed, Liz had apparently tried to tell me that she was divorced, but struggled to find the right words. Come to think of it, I recalled the moments after the proposal. At that time, Liz seemed like she wanted to say something, but I was so shocked by the rejection that I felt like nothing was registering in my ears. In other words, Liz and I had a miscommunication at a critical moment. But honestly, I think it was difficult for Liz to commit to marriage. She still struggles with the trauma from her previous marriage. Even now, she told me that she had some doubts, even though it was a proposal from Tom. I see. I understand the story now. But what should I have done? What should I have said to her? Someone bound by her past? As I was pondering with my head in my hands, Max began to speak to me like this. "I believe that Tom is the only one who can make Liz happy." Those words made me lift my head involuntarily. To be honest, 2 years ago, we were planning a trip to Miami with all my cousins to help Liz heal after her divorce. 2 years ago? You don't mean? Max nodded slowly. Liz seemed completely absent even when we went to Miami. So we were worried, wondering if she would be okay. Then, suddenly one night, she ran out of the inn. We were concerned that she might have been trying to end her life, so we searched for her. Later, Liz told us that she didn't intend to die at that time, but her mental state was so unstable that she ended up looking for a high place, so it was quite dangerous. Max shrugged his shoulders and said, "Even so, despite our worries," Liz came back in the middle of the night with a flushed face, as if she had been drinking, wearing a happy expression. She even said she had met a kind person. We all laughed. While Max laughed in exasperation, I was left feeling warm inside, all alone. But the way Liz, who had been so down, spoke so happily about meeting that kind person was really memorable. At that moment, I thought Liz might finally be able to move on and find happiness. When I heard that story, I couldn't sit still any longer, and immediately, I asked Max to arrange a meeting with Liz, to which he readily agreed and made a call to her. I signaled to Bob, who's beside me. My best friend grinned and said, "Go ahead and see her." After that, I reunited with Liz through Max's help. She appeared somewhat worn out. Liz initially tried to apologize to me right away. It was probably an apology for keeping her divorce a secret all this time, but I gestured for her to stop. What I wanted to hear from her wasn't an apology, and what I wanted to convey to her wasn't a proposal. This wasn't a proposal, but no matter what kind of past Liz has, I love her. However, that doesn't mean I'm pressuring her for an answer. We can take things one step at a time. If it's okay, could we start by letting Liz get to know my parents? If there's anything she's worried about, she can tell me. I'll be here to support her through any fears. I also told her that if this was unacceptable to her, we could go our separate ways. If she's afraid of marriage, it's okay to stay in our current relationship. Anyway, I made it clear that being with Liz is my happiness. Then, with tears in her eyes, she clasped both of my hands and repeatedly thanked me, saying, "Thank you for loving someone like me. Thank you." After that, I introduced her to my parents as my girlfriend. I had already explained her situation to them beforehand. At first, both Liz and my parents seemed unsure of how to interact with each other, but as they spent more time together, their conversations became more natural. We even went to Miami together and had a great time. Then, my mother and Liz went to the spa alone. I couldn't help but laugh, wondering when they had become so close. I also go out for drinks alone with Liz at night. It was on our way back from one of those nights that she had a bright red face and said to me, "If you're willing, please marry me." Just with the help of alcohol, she gave me her best proposal. I felt like crying, but I held it back. I replied with a smile, saying, "I'd be delighted." And so in the memorable city of Miami, we pledged our eternal love to each other.